Now, a good friend of mine recently told me that 2020 was a lesson in us learning to experience what we've not experienced before. We're expecting the unexpected. Indeed, 2020 felt like a lesson. But if that is the case for 2020, 2021 has been more like the test. The oscillation between being at home to back to being in person, to suddenly going hybrid, to suddenly going remote, permanent, lockdowns from a Canadian perspective, shutdowns, the world being in different states when it comes to the vaccine rollout, and then the variety of different strains that have come about and put a real damper on some of the movements to get things open again. If 2021 has taught us anything or has tested us in anything, it is about our resilience and our ability to be a little comfortable with being uncomfortable. From a security perspective, not only have large enterprises been experiencing multiple new environments, but the small to medium businesses have also found themselves in a very new and different reality. I work with a lot of small to medium businesses, and one of the things that I constantly tell them is, if that's the way you always used to do it, that's probably the wrong way. So when it comes to security and small to medium businesses, today, setting the way straight, I have folks from the lovely team at Kaspersky. And joining me today are two individuals who not only will expose you to the variety of thought processes that small to medium businesses are going through and the challenges that they're facing, but more importantly, how they've come to the table, not just with Kaspersky tools, but with their brain trust, with their community to support small to medium businesses. I want to thank Kaspersky for making this session happen, as well as the lovely team from the Cyber Exchange crew. You all know me. I'm Ali Hirji, lead of both the AI Hub and the Center for Cybersecurity Innovation at Durham College, and I'm the host of the Power Hour, as well as a new upcoming session with the team at Kaspersky called In the Node. Welcome and good morning, good afternoon, and good evening from wherever you're joining us. Without any further ado, I'm going to ask the team at Kaspersky to introduce themselves, starting with Lisa. Lisa, tell us a little bit about your role. Tell us what keeps you excited about it, and how are you adapting to all of the change that we've been through over the last 12 to 14 months. Lisa?
Hi, Ali. Thank you for having us. It's an honor to be here. My name is Lisa Kilpatrick. I manage the small medium business team for Kaspersky North America. And I've been in my current role for 16 months. So January 2020, I was promoted from a senior account executive to managing a team of sellers. We started off with a bang, and then in March, we discovered we're all working remote from home. So that definitely was not what I was expecting in my first year managing a team, but we got through it. And really supporting our customers in the small, medium business space. It was a lot for, our small, medium customers as they were adapting to how they were going to run their businesses remotely as well. So we put a lot of incentives in place to support our customers and support our partners, but the team has been, like you said, extremely resilient. And overall, I think everybody was feeling a high sense of anxiety with everything that was going on in the world. 2020 was a tough year, not only with COVID, but everything else on top of it. So overall, I mean, despite all the challenges that we've had, we also uncovered, how we are so adaptable and able to work from home and have more video conferencing conversations with our customers. We are definitely going to be using these tools, the video calls, on every single call, even moving forward, when the world gets back to a normal space. So business has been good. We're helping our customers. Our customers are getting out of the challenges that they've been facing, but cybersecurity obviously still remains a focus for all of our customers, and hope to provide some more light in regards to how we're helping our customers through.
Fantastic. And I think that's a very important point, is that what's normal to us now is basically everything that's not normal. And that's what's become normal for us now. Expect the unexpected. I also like the aspect where you've emphasized the point of support, and you've also referenced the anxiety. Some of the stressors that small to medium businesses have had to deal with in light of new attacks, new threats, new frauds that have emerged, new phishing campaigns, etc. That's where you've held a very critical role in helping organizations navigate these turbulent times. And I definitely want to come to that in terms of the process of engagement that you go through with your pre-sales team and then with the rest of your team members, how you walk clients through and you're there with them step by step. So thank you for that introduction, Lisa. Looking forward to further discussions with you. Ori Ammar, love the name and love the fact that backstage we were able to connect on our Middle East roots. You've seen a lot in the world of cybersecurity, just like your friend Lisa. Tell us a little bit about what you do, what keeps you excited about your role, and how have you adapted to the changes that have come forward at us as a result of the pandemic and other things. Ori?
Ali, thank you for this lovely introduction. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm going to take a look at everything that's happened in a slightly different angle. I've worked in the field for about 20 years now, starting working for an ISP. And as we all know, security practitioners are often referred to as the people who say no. The business leaders come and ask for something, we say no, this is not secure, we can't do it, with always the risk in mind. And after a few years working in an ISP as the guy who says, no, this is impossible, this is not secure, I was very intrigued by the business aspect, which led me to spending the past almost 15 years doing pre-sales for various organizations, which is the intersection of technology and business, which I find very, very interesting. And I think from a COVID perspective, pre-sales is at the right junction of the people who say yes, but. So we can do it, but there is an elevated or heightened risk that you need to factor in. This will enable you to do business, but you have to understand the give and take, the mechanics. And working for Kaspersky, as well as other vendors, providing technological solutions to business problems is what intrigues me. And from a COVID perspective, I think it is very unfortunate, but it hit us at the right time that the market is mature to facilitate the rapid transition to saying yes. And if you think about the entire ecosystem in cybersecurity, cloud adoption, if COVID were to hit us 5 years ago, when most businesses were still focused on-prem, hiding behind a firewall, solidifying the perimeter, it would have been very, very hard to adjust almost overnight to a work from home or remote. We have the solutions, we have the capability, but at Kaspersky and similar solutions do not operate in a void. They're dependent on many other factors that all fit in to complete a very nice puzzle, a robust puzzle of allowing you to rapidly transition to work from home or work from anywhere almost overnight. Yes, there are concerns. Yes, there is a heightened risk, but I think the industry as a whole, practitioners, customers alike, vendors, really adapted very, very quickly because most of the elements were already in place or in process. Companies were in the process of migrating to the cloud. Companies that have already fully completed their journey, digital businesses, online presence, that move was seamless or less painful. For others, we were there to guide them and saying, yes, but we can help you, we can adjust, but bear in mind, this opens up the door, or you need to compensate for the risk with additional controls. And we can talk about that later on.
Absolutely. Now, these are very important points. And, I'm reminded of something that a mentor of mine said, especially in light of, the sudden need where you're shifting to remote with small to medium business, all types of businesses shifting to remote. You have to get things done in the now. Yesterday has already gone, tomorrow is yet to come. The only time to get things done is in the now. And I really want to go through a little bit of that exploration on how you've engaged, how you've managed the volume when it comes to the number of requests, and how you've attributed resources to ensure that no client is left behind. In the world of security, there's no one-size-fits-all solution, and how Kaspersky has adjusted from an engineering perspective to make sure that unique needs are met. So Ori and Lisa, just in your introductions alone, some very fascinating threads of conversations have emerged. Lisa, I want to start off with you. And, I say this a lot to whenever I speak, is that, amateurs will hack systems, professionals will really hack people. You really need to explain to people what you can offer to them in order for them to understand the use cases and the value proposition of some of the tools. For the next couple of minutes, can you help our audience understand what are some of these, specifically the cloud-based security solutions that you've been providing for small to medium businesses over the last recent while? Lisa?
Sure. Our solutions are extremely scalable regardless of the size of our customers. So we do support customers that have as little as 5 endpoints, or actually 1 endpoint, all the way up to, for large enterprises. Specifically with our KES Cloud solutions, we have 2 tiers of support, KES Cloud and KES Cloud Plus. We've offered significant improvements and expanded our portfolio to ensure that with the expanding threat landscape, we are providing not only a strong, robust endpoint detection, endpoint protection, we also offer on top of that some newly added functionalities to our KES Cloud Plus, which includes cloud discovery and blocking, as well as endpoint detection and response options. Which is extremely important to have that full visibility into all of your endpoints, and then provide, options for responses. Early detection, I think, is number 1 in terms of making sure that your network can remain secure, because there can be, something lingering for quite some time before you even know what's going on. So, of course, with small and medium business, we need to be proactive at making sure that, if something was to happen, then it's extremely detrimental, for those businesses particularly. So we offer, again, a number of, now we have a fully hosted cloud console as well. Our EDR Optimum solution is a great, robust solution and easy to maintain. You don't need to have a sophisticated team of analysts to maintain the EDR options that we offer. And then the cost also is reduced. So you don't need to have all the budget in the world, which we know time, budget, resources, those are issues for our SMB customers.
Fantastic. And thank you for laying that out so clearly. There has been a question that's come in directly to me, which I'll come to after going to Ori first, and then Lisa will come back to you. And just so that you can prep for that question, it's more around who is actually using some of these applications from a small to medium business perspective. So we'll come to that question after I go to Ori. And Ori, based on what Lisa has just spoken about, a mentor of mine again once said that, nothing is more believed than the things that we least know. Many small businesses, will think, we've got secure passwords and we change our passwords all the time, and everything is hosted in one particular cloud, and the cloud has its own security policies, so we're good to go. And many times they don't really know what they're talking about, but it's a sense of assuring themselves, we've done what we had to do. What are some of the threats that have emerged in the recent past that you've been exposed to? What are some of the new situations that you're now having to walk small to medium businesses through and prepare them from a Kaspersky standpoint? Ori?
Thank you, Ali. So this is a very broad topic. We'll start very high level and drill down into some facts and figures from the last year or so. So first of all, the same principles apply to small businesses as they apply to larger enterprises, and it's a matter of risk management. Right, you go through a process of understanding the risk to your business and reduce it through various technical means, processes, people, to an acceptable level that every stakeholder agrees to that risk. And with the residual risk, you compensate for example, with insurance and other means to sustain your business. So this is at a very, very high level. And when we talk about the cyber risk, and what we have seen change is, first of all, the dominance of financially motivated cybercrime, and the fact that financially motivated threat actors, which are plenty, even some nation states, go after money, targeting smaller businesses as well, not just enterprises. And we've seen in the last year the exponential rise of targeted attacks. Targeted means they are custom techniques and custom objectives to the target. Even smaller businesses we've seen impacted. Schools, which were not impacted before. And of course, this is most commonly ransomware, but ransomware is also targeted, not just the payload and the variant and the delivery, but the type of ransomware. Where in 2014-15, the start of the ransomware pandemic, we've seen the most commonly deployed were encryptors, right? In some cases, you paid, you got access back. In other cases, whether you paid or not, you're never getting access back. It is ransomware for hire or bought and purchased on the deep and dark web. Right now, part of the change or shift from just encrypting and preventing you access, which companies have invested in backups, and we'll talk at a later stage of whether you have backups or have gone through a routine of testing those backups is something completely different. We'll talk about that later on. But they realize that organizations have invested in backups and various means of presuming work, so they have shifted to exfiltration of data. The final stage may be hiding their footsteps by encrypting some machines and throwing the incident response off track, but it is more damaging if they hold valuable information. It could be trade secrets, could be intellectual property, confidential client information, and threatening to release that on the internet.
Right.
And we've seen that happen time and time again. And even small businesses hold on to confidential information, certain regulations. They could be in violation of whatever HIPAA, PCI, and other regulatory compliance. So this is damaging. So we've seen exfiltration of data. Another type that is prevalent would be, and it is linked to the rising value of cryptocurrencies, is crypto miners. When the value declined about a year and a half ago before the pandemic, we've seen a lot less instances of our client base, and in the industry for that matter, infected by crypto miners. This is a low and slow because, again, with the rising value of cryptocurrencies and shifting to work remotely, there's a lot less supervision of what happens on endpoints. And unlike ransomware that encrypted the machine, the user obviously will let you know, hey, I can't work. My machine is encrypted. I have this message. If a cryptocurrency is consuming resources in the back end, it is damaging to the business, no doubt about it, but it is often unseen. And think about school districts where machines are, okay, they are slow. They think they're old and slow, so they are a bit slower. But which student is going to complain that they have a hard time or lagging on the Zoom session? I have kids, they don't really bother that much with, some latency and lag. So we've seen the rise of cryptocurrency, crypto miners as well. And again, like I say, it is damaging to your business nonetheless. Maybe less destructive, but still damaging. A nice anecdote about threat actors, some purposely avoided, and again, we're talking about targeted attacks, avoiding hitting healthcare centers. Some threat actors, if by accident they targeted, they would, in some instances, remove their payload or provided decryption keys, because there are people too, of course, they have relatives or themselves need medical attention. This is a global pandemic. Other threat actors, and again, broadly speaking, because attribution is hard, did not care that much if it's a healthcare center or not. So these are the trends that we're seeing. As far as mitigation, this is also a pivotal change from the past, where the focus, and we're talking about endpoint security and perimeter, it was all focused on prevention. Prevention is still needed, but we're at the point that adding more layers of prevention is ineffective against targeted attacks because they will get in. So yes, with adequate level of prevention, you're making yourself a harder target for those opportunistic attackers. They'll move on to the next one, and they have a big bang. It's a target-rich environment, military speaking. There's plenty of targets now. Work from home or anywhere is presented attackers with a very rich attack surface. So you focus on prevention, but if you're still targeted, they will get in. So now solutions and processes are geared towards threat detection. And the objective here is timely detection of adversarial activity. Again, in military parlance, you want to stay left of the boom. Right of the boom, your supplier, your customers are going to notice something's off and call you, and that will be your indication that something bad's happening. Or your users are going to start calling the help desk, my machine is offline, my machine is encrypted. Detection after the boom will be catastrophical. And another fact is that a difference between enterprises and SMB. We're talking about a catastrophical cyber event. It is unfortunately not survivable for smaller companies.
Yep.
For the larger companies, they're all still around. I mean, Equifax is around, Target, Home Depot, TJ Maxx, and we can go on with global examples. But it is very much survivable. Stock takes a dip and recovers very quickly. Some
Yep.
people, unfortunately, lose their jobs. For SMBs, this is ever more so
Yeah.
critical, yes, to be resilient. And the focus is on timely detection. If you detect a targeted attack in its earliest stage, your response would be a lot more efficient, less costly, with less damages. Because we know targeted attacks the adversaries spend time on your network. They get in, they move around, they try to get, following whatever framework we use, whether it's the cyber kill chain, lateral movement, privilege escalation. Without getting too technical, there is a dwell time. If they remain undetected, the boom happens. If you invest in threat detection with the goal of timely detection of adversarial activity, you'll be more successful in your response. And it is a cycle. Keep prevention, but start thinking about timely detection of adversarial activity. And later on in our conversation, we can talk about techniques and solutions that we provide and arm even small businesses with the ability to effectively threat hunt. It's not just the big guys who need it. We need to timely detect those adversaries. So
Yep.
I know it was a bit lengthy, but
No, not at all.
from a high level to
No, absolutely. And we've said this a gazillion times, right? Cybersecurity is not a destination. It is a journey. So you took us on that journey where, we looked at larger systems, and then you did a very neat comparison between the difference in understanding the power of an attack when it hits a large enterprise versus a small to medium enterprise. I mean, there are life and death situations. We've seen attacks in healthcare where people have actually lost their lives because of misplacements of data, wrong medication being administered because of data being exfiltrated, as you mentioned. But with the small to medium businesses, that 2 days of downtime because of an attack and the amount it may cost to recover ultimately can cripple that small to medium business. And I do want our audience to pay attention to that, because that is going to factor in a little later on when we talk about how the team at Kaspersky, from a pre-sales perspective, from the support that they also get from Lisa, how they're also guided with their budgeting when it comes to cybersecurity. So Ori, thank you so much for that wonderful explanation. Lisa, I'll come to you now and taking that question that came in directly to me. So thank you to the audience member. And Lisa, this question has to do with when you're dealing with small to medium businesses, you don't want them necessarily to trade or to act on cybersecurity out of fear or out of, we don't know what's going to happen, but let's just do something. You want to keep them informed. In the world of security, like Ori was mentioning, there are a lot of technical ways in which data is shared. There are like taxi frameworks, STIX frameworks. There are different frameworks that we use to share what we know, to share what we're about to do, to share data, more importantly, and to give access to what's happening on your system. How do you ensure that, let's say, a small business doesn't have a security expert, but has somebody who manages their emails or manages, their websites, etc.? How do you make sure to bring the information, which is very technical, in an understandable, accessible manner? Lisa?
Great question. So that's true. A lot of small businesses don't have the technical expertise. First, starting with our discovery process, I think that's really important to know who you're speaking to. Meet your customers where they are at, and ask those important questions regarding their current infrastructure. The team, because oftentimes it is one person, and like you said, that one person might not even be in IT. And understanding, the customer is then, we can respond with the prescribing the appropriate solutions. So starts with knowing your customers and then offering the right solutions. So our sellers on the SMB team, they know how to use KES Cloud and KES Cloud Plus, and we in the O365 protection as well. And it's so easy that even our sales reps can use it. So you don't have to be very technical. And we also offer full professional services as well. It's this white glove treatment from our talented professional support team that really trains, helps with deployment, configuration, best practice assistance, make sure they know how to fully use the solutions after they purchase. And prior to purchase, we'll send out some trial keys and work with Ori's team to ensure that they have a proper proof of concept so they know that these are the solutions that they need and that they want and they can use prior to purchase.
Absolutely. And I think that that's extremely important. And I'm just even thanking that individual for that question, is that from a preparedness perspective as well, you've got to spend that time from a Kaspersky standpoint to get to know that client and understand their process. That's where the engagement levels, you go through one meeting, a second meeting. I've been through a couple of them as well. And I think that playbook that you follow is extremely important. So to the audience that's viewing right now, besides the tickers that you see below with very interesting data points about the state of attacks on SMBs. You've got individuals like Greg that are currently online. Feel free to reach out to them. Feel free to connect to Ori and Lisa as well on the Cyber Exchange platform and go through a little bit of that playbook, that journey. At the end of the day, it's not about, having been through the process myself, it's not about whether, hey, you have to buy that Kaspersky solution. It really is about whether you understand enough of your own footprint and then you make the decision on what's the best step for you to take. So Lisa, thank you for that very methodical, short and precise answer of how you're helping make knowledge more accessible from a security standpoint. Ori, let's come to you because this question kind of comes up in my own mind, and that is, you really realize the elegance that someone has from a security perspective when they're under pressure. Different things are happening, but people like yourself who have been there, have seen multiple of these iterations, are feeding in from different information sources, people like both of you rather, you know how to stay calm under that pressure. However, when it comes to socially engineered attacks, we're entering into spaces that are extremely unknown, extremely malleable, and infinite in their capabilities. How are you discussing with SMBs specifically how to understand and prepare for socially engineered attacks like whaling, etc.? Can you comment a little bit on that, Ori?
For sure. And certainly, as we have discussed, the prevalence of targeted attacks, social engineering is a very common entry vector into an organization, big or small. So there are two distinct, almost parallel thought processes for external and internal, because we know insider threat and insider social engineering is just a big threat to organization. It could be disgruntled employees or employees who are, let's say, not so loyal to the organization, you name it. So externally, the principle, the guiding principle would be zero trust, right? And it's a framework of products, processes, and so on, whether it's machine to machine, person to machine, and so on. On the insider track, and we know business email compromise is huge, in billions of dollars. You get an email from your CEO, it looks legit, send the money for this account, it's a legit PO number, it is structured the same. And like you said, pressure is on, you're closing the quarter, there is millions of orders, wire transfers that need to go out, you transfer the money, and then you find that it was a business email compromise of sort. So for the internal track, I would say trust but verify. Because if you apply zero trust everywhere, even internally, business would grind to a halt. And this is where we start thinking about the solutions. And we know awareness training and phishing and anti-phishing training is valuable, but it can only get you as
so far,
right? You can't change behavior. And there's a school of thought saying, telling users not to click anything, that's not what the internet was designed for. It was designed for us to be able to click, to go about our business. And for the average Joe who's working in a company, who is not necessarily born and raised with a keyboard, the awareness training will only get them as far. So we have to achieve a baseline through awareness and training, and trying to change behavior is hard. It's not black and white. The phishing emails, the tactics, the social engineering, whether physical, in person, on site, or whatever means the adversary would take, can lure almost everyone. Everyone will fall for a phishing attack. The question is, do you only invest in awareness training? Do you have compensating control? Some companies invest solely in awareness training. Others invest, say, this is useless. We can change our employees' behavior. We're a global company, so many backgrounds, so many cultures. Let's only invest in technological controls. Either one is bound to fail at a higher rate. And nobody in security is going to say 100%. You need to have the right measure of awareness training, understanding your people, the culture, and are you really able to change their behavior, but also invest in compensating controls. Ultimately, a targeted attack will get in. Question is, after you've prevented and reduced the attack surface to a agreed upon level, what then? Of course, we said that's prevention, and we move on to detection. Because once they're in through a successful, let's say, social engineering attack, they have to spend a certain number of days, weeks, months, or even years on your network to achieve their objective. So yes, as I said before, invest in prevention with regards to social engineering. It's a mix of awareness training and trying to change user behavior, but also technological controls to assist in prevention. That will get you a certain baseline, which improving it at some point becomes too high of a cost to improve a few percent points on your baseline, then spend on threat detection because they will get in. We're talking about targeted attacks.
Absolutely. And, it's not easy, especially when you're talking to small to medium businesses. I've also seen a question come up around startups. So we will come to that very shortly. But yes, at the end of the day, for a business owner or a team that's leading a small to medium team, whenever you see a successful business, it's because someone or a group of someones took a courageous decision. There are some courageous decisions that you have to make, some behavioral decisions that you have to make in this process. I think when I was having a conversation with the the vice president of IT from Waterloo North Hydro, Mark Dillon, who's also a huge Kaspersky fan. Shout out to him because I believe he's watching this session as well. Good to have you on, Mark, as always. He made a point to me is that if everybody feels that it's just a technology-based solution to every problem, then that's the problem. If you can just throw money at something and it's going to work, that's not the case. And that's where I think it's really important for everybody that's listening. Quite a few of you are responsible for small budgets as well when it comes to IT. When you pick that vendor that you're going to work with, when it comes to the tools that you want for your small operation, your medium operation, that relationship that you can strike with them, that ability to get Ori on a call or Greg on a call within enough sufficient time to get some advice is extremely, extremely important. So thank you, Ori and Lisa. For the last 30 minutes, you really painted a very interesting picture about your perspective on cybersecurity for small to medium businesses, and also the personability that you've brought to the field. So thank you so much for that. Lisa, with 30 minutes to go, I want to dive a little bit now into when we talk about small to medium businesses, what sectors are you seeing them coming from? Are you seeing restaurants coming forward? Are you seeing startups coming forward with certain needs? Where are you seeing these sectors and these businesses coming out that they need some assistance? Lisa?
Across all sectors, honestly. We do see a lot of healthcare, finance, credit unions, retail, manufacturing, and a lot of DevOps teams that leverage our hybrid cloud security solutions as well. So yes, Kaspersky is completely scalable, not only across the number of customers, but across all industries as well. So really, when we talk about priorities, there are no priorities in terms of how we segment who gets the most attention from us. We treat every customer as a unique customer with important needs, regardless of size or industry. However, when coronavirus shook our world, we knew that we needed to give a little extra attention to healthcare and education, because those are the industries that were, working on the front lines to create a safer world for us. And that's our motto and our mantra. Our mission is to create a safer world for all customers and home users as well. So regardless of government or small business or large enterprise, we treat them all the same. And like I said previously, it's really about knowing the customer and what their specific needs are. So if I'm thinking about healthcare, for instance, what we did during COVID is we wanted to make sure healthcare and education, and then some other industries that were significantly impacted, but we provided some additional licenses so they could adjust to the remote work life and be able to, provide protection for themselves as well as their customers. So that was really something that we focused on in terms of specific industries. And I think I answered your question.
No, absolutely. And just if we can build on that just a little bit more, because in the part of getting to know your customer, ultimately there has to be a spend, and you've always seen those memes, right? Is prior to a breach, the security budget is a couple of rupees, and then after a breach, it's like, well, here's $1 million to solve this situation. But as you get to know the customer, Lisa, and that question comes out around budget, how do you help them understand budgeting when it comes to buying cybersecurity tools and services? Do those questions even come up at all? What's that interaction like, Lisa?
Of course it does. Always asking, what their budget is an important question to know. It's like buying a car, right? If you can't afford a Lexus, then maybe you need to look at a Corolla. However, cybersecurity is a little bit different, because of the fact that it's not, with the evolving threat landscape, it's no longer an issue of, oh, we're a small business, no one's, going to attack me. Everybody is vulnerable, and it's not if the attack is going to occur, it's when and how detrimental that is going to be for their business. So really understanding and asking those questions on, what they're securing today. I hear so many customers, oh, no, we're not protecting our servers. Like you were saying previously, in terms of, oh, we're in the cloud, we're good. Really understanding what they think is important, and then providing that best practice
around that
knowledge, and be their trusted advisor to pinpoint where there are gaps in their security posture. So some of the tools that we leverage in terms of ROI calculators is something that we have, so they can input, answer a few questions, and then helping them understand, the average cost of a breach and all of that.
Right.
Absolutely. Yes, Ori, go ahead.
If I may add to that, the conversation is now a bit more complex than in previous years, where, okay, you replace the product, especially in the endpoint world, you had one AV, you put Kaspersky or display some other solution. It was very straightforward, right? There's some advantages to the process. Cost was more or less the same, but now we're talking about a completely different landscape. And we spoke earlier about that residual risk. What do companies do with that residual risk? They either accept it, but nowadays accepting the risk, which could be catastrophic for small and medium-sized businesses, is no longer acceptable. They invest in cyber insurance.
Right. That's a question that's come in also. Thank you.
We'll talk about that a bit later, but when you invest in cyber insurance, obviously the premiums have to be calculated, right? If you take out just like your life insurance, health insurance, and any insurance policy, depends on your history, obviously, what kind of controls, products, and so on. So we expand the conversation beyond just the IT team who may be procuring the solution to every stakeholder. If you invest up front, not only will you get high resiliency, but this may affect your premiums. Of course, after an incident, the premiums only go one way for a very long time. So yes, the project was budgeted to displace product A with product B, but we, as in my team and Lisa's team and everyone, now understands the broader picture here and raises the conversation and the key points of the what if, what would be the impact. And cyber insurance is just one piece of the puzzle. There's also incident response, which is either part of your cyber insurance policy or you're expected to have an IR retainer in place, especially organizations who cannot afford any downtime. You need people ready to go when you pick up the phone. There's no time to sign up all the legal work and for someone to come in or do an IR remotely. So cyber insurance and IR go hand in hand, but if you can invest upfront, not only increase your security posture, but reduce those premiums, this is a totally different conversation that will just sell you stuff for the purpose of selling. And from the pre-sales aspect, we then move from a proof of concept, which is making sure the product works as designed, to a proof of value. Are we able to provide value? This is a completely different ballgame, doing a proof of value versus a proof of concept, which is very defined. Does it do A, B, and C as claimed? Yes, it does. Shake your hand or fist bump nowadays and move on with the purchase. So
Absolutely. And I think, you both brought up really important points, which is not just the proof of value, but, when you use the term ROI calculator, I've said this all the time, especially when I do certain consulting arrangements, that you don't need to look at it just as a return on investment. It's a return on innovation, a return on imagination. You've got to let yourself understand new areas. I think one of the most important things that you've also brought forward here is that, when I work in AI, I always mention this, that, most of my conversations when I'm deploying prototypes with my students doesn't tend to be with the directors of IT, tends to be with marketing, business dev, etc. And the same in security now is you have to have these conversations to understand business processes, to understand what the social pulse is behind a company before you can determine what tools are right. So to the small to medium businesses that are paying attention to this, it's not just about whether you understand what does Ori mean when he talks about an AV or an incident response plan. Really, it's about the brain trust that you have about your business and what you understand about your customers, your competition. All factors in when a security solution is customized and tailored for you from the Kaspersky standpoint. So Ori and Lisa, thank you for diving into that. Lisa, a question that has come in, and I'll bring it to you, and then probably also get some feedback from Ori. If you don't know where you're going, then all the roads will lead you there. You need to know where you want to head to, and you need to take certain steps, especially for a small to medium business. I know you mentioned that, there are no priorities for sectors. You service all clients differently, but you've got to help a small to medium business understand what are the things you need to start dealing with first, and then what can wait and what can you do gradually with time as your posture matures. How do you help a small to medium business understand? Is it, for example, some of their endpoints that they need to start with? Is it the website security in and of itself? How do you get them started on where do they need to prioritize some of their spend and their time? Lisa?
A lot of times it starts with regulatory compliance as well, depending on what industry they are in. They need to ensure that they have everything checked off. For education. It's the SIPA, and then for healthcare, it's HIPAA. So we want to make sure that not only do we check those boxes off, but what we are doing is really satisfying, their full needs. So having conversations with them regarding what their goals are, some pain points that they're having, really drives a lot of those conversations. But like I said previously, I ask a ton of questions.
Yep.
And I feel like just, asking questions in terms of how many endpoints they have, okay, how many virtual servers, how many virtual desktops, how many what are they using for their storage server, for their mail. And so uncovering answers to those questions helps me and our team realize, okay, what are some of the gaps, that we really feel is important to them. They're going to tell us, what they feel is important too.
For sure.
But then really talking about, okay, these are some of the areas that we see that you can improve. And a lot of times right now, endpoint detection response is important. It's very important. And so offering solutions that are affordable to those small medium business customers is important as well. And again, easy to consume and use and light on resources. Yeah. And then also, for a lot of our small medium business customers, consolidation is important too. So Kaspersky offers multi-tiered solutions that just doesn't protect, but we also offer patch management, adaptive anomaly control, like I said before, the cloud discovery and blocking to make sure there's no unwanted cloud applications, being used or within the corporate network. And encryption, file folder full disk encryption. So really understanding, okay, is there regulatory compliance measures that they need to meet, and what are their goals, and then seeing how Kaspersky can best align and help them.
And I think if you take this just a little bit of a step further, is that, there is an endless pool. It's a depth of an ocean when you come to the different ways in which even a small to medium business can experience some form of an attack, some form of a threat, some form of a vulnerability. And this question that's come in, I think, Ori, I'll go to you first, and then Lisa, I also want to get your perspective on this. And this is to do with vendor management. Is there anything within the Kaspersky stack that can also help them understand how they're engaging with their vendors, what they need to be aware of with regards to their vendors. Again, it's such an ocean of information. Is there anything that you have there as well to support how a small to medium business, for example, might be consuming services from a payment processor for that matter? Ori?
Right. So this is a whole different world, right? We provide services that cater to this, but not necessarily a full solution. There are technological solutions that focus exclusively on vendor management, but these are typically consumed by very large enterprises. For the smaller ones, we do attack the problem from several angles. One, for example, is vulnerability management. The management system of the endpoint product has a vulnerability scanner. So whether you've already done business and implemented the vendor's products, it can tell you based on available databases and our internal research, of course, if there are any known vulnerabilities within these products, the criticality level, and many times if a patch is available, deploy. It doesn't tell you the risk of doing business with that business entity itself. That's a whole different segment. We do have a service which we call digital footprint that scans for your online presence and shows you a complete report at a given point in time, and you can do it systematically of how exposed you are. And if yes, you're dealing with a merchant and that merchant exposes your information or whatever, it may show up in the report. But if you're talking about solutions that evaluate businesses and score them based on reputation, based on how secure they are, this supply chain is critical. Then yes, there are solutions that cater exclusively to vendor management. We don't offer that, but we do offer small and medium-sized businesses, again, the patch management, vulnerability management, and obviously the entire digital footprint, which shows you if you are exposed in any way, directly or indirectly, through companies you are doing business with.
Okay. Just taking that a little bit of a step further, and Lisa, coming to you as well, as we go a little bit further with that conversation is, we say that, right, is that, you measure twice and you cut once, and you really can't define anything you can't measure. How do you, once a customer comes on board and once a customer starts to utilize some of your services, what kind of reportings do you provide them with? What kind of actionable intelligence do you give them?
We offer reporting that it depends on what solution. So on there's always a reporting tab, whether you're using our Cus Cloud or Kaspersky suite portfolio, and they can see, what devices are compromised, what needs attention, how to correct some of those issues. Because Ori was talking before about our managed threat hunting services as well. That provides really good insight into when the threat was first discovered, when it was last updated, any details, what's the action plan. So these reports are included within their respective consoles.
Yeah. And I think that's extremely important again, because again, for the small to medium businesses that are on, when you look at it from a perspective of what reports do you get, that is what feeds what you're going to be doing for the next months, et cetera. And actioning some of those details and those data sets are extremely important. Ori, coming back to you, and this is something that we had talked about, well, not necessarily with the team at Kaspersky, but in some of my engagements with the small to medium businesses. And this has to do less on the vendor management side, but also in helping small to medium businesses understand what are some steps they need to take in the event that they have suffered something. So the question that's come in is, from a cyber insurance perspective, does that allow them also to consume certain Kaspersky services? How do you see the insurance world and what you provide coming together for them?
A very relevant question, Ali. And what we see, again, we mentioned many of our small and mid-sized customers have been taking or are in the process of taking a cyber insurance policy. That policy, of course, is underwritten by an insurance agency and people who investigate the threats and try to assess the risk and probability and so on. And we see the most commonly asked or addition to cyber insurance is, do you have EDR? And EDR itself is endpoint detection and response. We move from endpoint prevention or protection. We know, and we said, we hopefully agree, prevention or protection can only take you as far. The focus is now on detection, and the technological tool is EDR. Now, EDR can mean many things to many people, but the first step in responding is obviously detection. We mentioned the objective is timely detection. Now, depending on the industry and the insurance policy and the coverage, it can be a checkbox for compliance. Do you have EDR? Yes. They ask us for the white paper and supporting evidence. They submit it, and that's it. If they are asking for higher coverage or high risk organization, they may need to go through a checklist. Does your EDR do this, do this, do this, do this? And we'll talk about the response also. And if it's a higher coverage or very high risk, they may be subject to an on-premise or someone remotely assessing the controls, looking at the configuration, and so on. Now, Lisa and Ali, you both mentioned compliance. Even with cyber insurance policy and everything else, compliance should be treated as the first step, as the foundation. It does not mean you're secure. This is where my team is advised and to discuss with the customer. Yes, you're compliant. Yes, we have EDR, but EDR comes in many shapes and forms. We don't necessarily want to sell you, especially for small and mid-sized businesses, a product. With threat detection, it is very much a solution, which is part product, part services. And service could be onboarding services from professional services, could be training, could be support, but more importantly, utilizing the product to its full potential. Because when you talk about detection, it has to be 24/7, 365. Because the objective, again, is to timely detect. That's measured in MTD, mean time to detect. If you have an analyst doing many other things, they can look at an EDR product from time to time, but they would miss the point of the investment in EDR. Yes, you may be compliant, but you will not achieve the result in timely detection. This is why services such as threat hunting services, which we provide, the first step to properly responding is to timely detect. If you miss the detection and the boom happens, your panic mode, everyone is everywhere trying to understand what has happened, why, and you're fighting the fire. You want to detect the smoke. So for small and mid-sized businesses, it would be prudent to at least consider an investment once they make the upfront purchase of an EDR product. Yes, they do it nowadays. They have to because they are compliant to be compliant with the cyber insurance policies. We get that. But we want to, again, engage in a conversation to educate and to make everyone aware that EDR, unlike an AV, is not black and white. It deals very much with a lot of gray area. Now, what differentiates our EDR from many other offerings in the market is the high level of automation, the ability to understand that gray area, whether that noise is real or should be ignored. Now, holistically, if you look at EDR, it was a platform built for analysts, very large organization who gather all the data from all the endpoints and taking a look and humans solving that problem. Is this, as puzzle pieces come in constantly, you try to understand the picture, you remove the irrelevant pieces and add only the relevant ones until with a high degree of confidence, you say, this is a threat, I should begin my response. Now, for small, mid-sized businesses that don't have the teams, we invest a lot in automation, but automation relies on a very lengthy track record of understanding threats, having access to a year's worth of data about threats, threat actors, and tools, techniques, and procedures, because it's not black and white, it's behavior. It quacks like a duck, it walks like a duck, hey, it's a duck, right? So our solutions could be, of course, adapted to the larger enterprises where you have access to all the data, and you decide. However, they can and are also tailored to small, mid-sized businesses. You decide on the level of automation that you're comfortable with. Of course, higher automation may result in slightly higher false positives, which are also noise, but should be investigated. But our track record, and we have undergone so many public testing, and we stand behind our products, you can only achieve a high degree of automation that's valid and acceptable without generating, and we've seen products come to market and very early declared, like you said, machine learning, AI, fully automated, but the result was a lot of noise, a lot of false positives. Yep. We didn't want to rush it, but we, the team, and when we talk about proof of concept and also proof of value, that high level of automation within EDR is very beneficial. If you still concerned, because again, EDR, even with automation, things should be looked at when the product says this is we have a suspicion be above the threshold, beyond all doubt, someone needs to look at it. If you don't have the personnel, an upfront investment in such services, managed detection and response, or threat hunting, could help you extract the value from the investment in EDR and increase the security posture, reducing the likelihood of a catastrophic incident. So,
absolutely. And I think, this whole aspect about how insurance is factored in, even in terms of the purchases that we make, the tools that we have, most small to medium businesses will now have cyber insurance as part of their insurance policy. But it's good to know that that also can be a subject of conversation when you are talking to the team of Kaspersky, because the tools that you put in place, et cetera, and how that covers you and how that protects you. Very interesting conversations. And I do see a thread where we could potentially even have a discussion on a separate session altogether on the role of cyber insurance when it comes to protection and proactive measures in security postures. Now, we do have about 3.5 to 4 minutes left. Lisa, I'm going to start off with you just for some closing comments. Can you give us a little bit of an insight into some of the recent challenges that you've seen some small to medium businesses bring to you? And what do you think, right now with small to medium businesses, what's one of the top things that's keeping them awake? I mean, you're hearing a lot about the remote workspace as well. You're hearing a lot about spear phishing campaigns, so on and so forth. Is there one thing in particular that's really standing out that you're hearing a lot from the SMB sector?
Ransomware is never going away. It's always a subject that's top of mind for every small business that we speak to. So Kaspersky has always offered both signature-based and machine learning behavioral heuristics to protect against ransomware. So it's something that we're talking about on a daily basis, and what steps to take to ensure that they remain safeguarded against these threats.
Absolutely. And just working off that, Ori, very quick 1.5 minutes, ransomware being at the top. But then, of course, there is the deadly zero-day attacks. And are you seeing that also being a major challenge for the SMB sectors, and one that they probably aren't necessarily equipped to deal with as well as large enterprise?
No, not necessarily, not in the sense of a true zero-day, which are very costly. They are effectively cyber weapons, right? So unless an SMB holds very valuable information to an attacker, they will not necessarily waste the zero-day when there are so many easier ways to get in. Zero-days are usually, as we've seen with Hafnium, the Exchange attack by a nation state, SolarWinds, again, another nation state, where multiple zero-days were used because, again, these are very costly and time-consuming to find, develop, and weaponize. However, what affects SMBs is once the news about the zero-day is made public, failing to act will result in a boom. Take WannaCry, for example. The patch has been available for many, many months, I believe 4 to 6 months for the SMB vulnerability that facilitated WannaCry, again, following the NSA tool theft, the Eternal Glue. So yes, it doesn't impact directly with rarely, if at all, seen as zero-day in the sense of never before seen used against SMB. That's not a risk that should be top of mind. What should be top of mind once the news about zero-day breaks out, the small and mid-sized businesses need to be quicker to act in mitigating. Mitigating could be turning off a service that they no longer use. It doesn't need to be applying a patch if that breaks something else. Patching is difficult. Now, this is where vendor relationship comes in. Vendor with credible threat intelligence can tell you if this is actively being used. And this is how you apply threat intelligence to your vulnerability management program. Because patching everything all the time is a lost cause. You can't beat that cycle. However, if you are able to understand, yes, I have 3 vulnerabilities, all the critical vulnerability score of above 9, meaning they are very critical, should be patched, but which ones are being actively used in the wild in your territory or against your industry? This will help you prioritize. And we have some of a community effort with threat intelligence on our open threat intelligence platforms that could be the way in for even for small and mid-sized businesses to start leveraging threat intelligence.
Absolutely. No, Ori, I think that was a perfect sign off, because on May 11th, the In the Node series is going to be all about threat intelligence and how you can build, well, the title is strength in numbers and how you can utilize the sharing of threat intel to build stronger communities. But I think from both Lisa and Ori, one of the most important things that I got from you also is that from the SMB perspective, there is a need, whether that's at the Chamber of Commerce level, whether that's at different associations that form to support small to medium businesses. I know we have some folks from regional government, some of our friends from Aurora, Ajax, Oshawa, nearby vicinities that are on, these associations and creating groups for small to medium businesses where they can perhaps pool in with services, share some of best practices, share intelligence, and build communities of practices alongside Kaspersky, I think are some very good actionable steps that can be taken. And that's something that I think, Ori and Lisa, with my team, I'd like to have a conversation with you at a future date on how we could build for small to medium businesses, little communities of practice and disclosure programs where they feel like they've got a space where they can talk collectively and look at some solutions collectively as well. My time has come to an end now. Just like that, we've come to 60 minutes of conversation. Firstly, I want to thank Lisa and Ori for their time, their expertise, and more importantly, being so personal and open about their experiences. Lisa and Ori, I'm going to ask you to wait so that we can have a very quick debrief for 30 seconds in the green room. But thank you for your time. Thank you for sharing your expertise. To the audience, as I mentioned on May 11th, I'm super excited to be the host for the In the Node series. That's going to give you some notifications, if you will, on how to use threat intelligence in a smart and productive manner and the power of sharing. I've learned a lot in this session today, but more importantly, I hope for the small to medium businesses that are listening, you understood that security is not something that's outside of your purview. It's something that involves you as well. And if you want to get some more feedback, more perspective, reach out to me, reach out to the team at Kaspersky, and all of us collectively will be more than happy to help you. Another thing that I learned, and I've learned this by engaging diligently and frequently with the team at Kaspersky, being a user of some of their services as well, is that if attackers come after your dreams, the team at Kaspersky is one team that doesn't sleep, keeping you safe. You email them at any point of time and you get a response from them, whether it's from a technical standpoint, a business standpoint, an operational standpoint. And that's the kind of partner that I enjoy working with. And I want to thank them again for everything that they've been doing for the community and on the Cyber Exchange platform. With that, I ask all of you to stay safe, stay healthy, wherever you are, follow the protocols. We'll get through this. I know we're coming close to May. Seems like we haven't moved too far in a year, but this too shall pass. Stay secure, stay safe. This is Ali Hirji signing out, and I'll see you very, very soon in a couple of days on the In the Node series. Take care, everybody. Cheers.
Thank you.
You.